The prime minister also says he thinks Russia should be given a 48-hour ultimatum to leave Ukraine or face the fighting forces of NATO. Back here at home, when Joe Biden clicked into a virtual meeting this morning with Chinese President Xi Jinping, it might just have been the most important meeting of his presidency. At stake, a proxy war in Ukraine that could have American might facing off against Chinese counterparts. Russia wants China's help to fight Ukraine, both money and military aid. And it's no secret that the presidents of Russia and China have called each other best friends. So what chips does America have to convince China to turn around and walk away from Putin's demands? It turns out quite a bit. Joining me to talk about American leverage over China, Patrick Cronin. He is the Asia-Pacific Security Chair at the Hudson Institute, a nonpartisan think tank in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much, Mr. Cronin, for joining me. My first question is about the statement that the president made, that China would pay a steep price if it got involved in the war in Ukraine. What do you suppose the president meant by that?
Well, I think the president's referring to both short-term and long-term costs. The short-term costs, the immediate costs, would be secondary sanctions. So there'd be an economic cost immediately. The Chinese economy, like most economies in the world, are trying to get out of the COVID economy and recover. And for China, it's very important in this year of the 20th Party Congress later at the end of the year, when Xi Jinping begins essentially a third five-year term, most likely. The longer-term costs are more important, though, for China. And I think the president's message to Xi Jinping was, we are at a turning point. This is going to define the rest of this century if you're not careful, President Xi. Are we going to have a Cold War 2.0, or are we going to be able to find room for cooperation and not just confrontation? And I think that has certainly made Xi Jinping more cautious about how far he could go with his junior partner, Russia.
As remarkable as the growth of China's economy has been, the truth of the matter is that China does 10 times the business with America and the European Union than it does with Russia. And look, call me crazy, but I usually hear that money talks, and you can scale that comment.
Well, money may talk, and it's very important for Xi Jinping, and it's the legitimacy of the party, and Xi's legitimacy is rolled up in economic success and modernization. But remember, China's part of the global economy, so it's not just with the EU and the United States. It's literally everywhere in the world that China's largely the number one or second largest trading partner. And over the last 30 years, China's economy has outstripped Russia by 10 times. It used to be about the same size in 1990, and now it's 10 times the size of Russia. Russia's still the 12th largest economy in the world. China's number two, wants to be number one, and wants to claim that spot as the leader of the world.
As I understand it, the U.S. and the European Union, they have a couple of trump cards here. And that is that if China doesn't play ball, or if China pulls a fast one, then they could literally freeze China out of the, international financial payments system and make havoc for Chinese banks and for their economy. Not only that, but China is the largest importer of liquefied natural gas. Put a sanction on that, and some of the analysts say you would trigger a recession in China. That sounds like a pretty easy formula to say in 1-2 hour discussion. President Xi, this is not a good idea for you.
I think there are serious economic costs that could be imposed on China. It would face a recession, but we might face a recession as well. You know that mutual assured destruction is a term of art for nuclear deterrence, but it's also been used in economic interdependence. And in this case, our economies are intertwined enough globally that the entire global economy will be suffering if we have to go to such Herculean steps as kicking China out of the SWIFT financial messaging system. Remember, when we threatened Russia with that before they intervened into Ukraine, people called it the nuclear option. And we finally got the will to rally Europe and others to kick them out of the SWIFT messaging system, and then to also slap sanctions on their central bank, the other big sanction, really. Those would be much harder against China than against Russia.
Interesting, because it just seems so simple. It happens so quickly. With Russia, I think all of us, our heads were spinning at just how fast that happened. So a couple of things happened. On February 4th, there was a Russia-China summit in Beijing, and both of the leaders of Russia and China said, our alliance has no limit. That's their quote, not mine. So that's pretty strong. But then, just on Monday, China's top diplomat in Ukraine shook the hand of the Ukrainian prime minister. So I'm trying to figure out if that's crafty and clever like a fox, or if that's what neutrality looks like, or if China is allowing us all to believe that they're sitting on the sidelines while at the same time looking to exploit Russia while it's down.
Well, there's some of all of those elements, but it's largely guile here. The February 4 summit meeting between Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin was on the margins of the opening ceremony of the Beijing Olympics. Putin went to Beijing. He and Xi stood up and delivered a 5,500-word joint statement, or at least issued it, talking about their common vision, a Russian-China vision for the world. That's where they said there's no limits to this partnership. It's not an alliance in the sense that they're integrated militarily, but in every other way, their vision is to basically displace U.S. power in the U.S. system. Russia, though, wants to break that system. China wants to own it. And so there is a different perspective, and China has more at stake here. So China has to be careful about how far it can go with this guile. They do charm very well, and they can be charming with Ukrainians. They can be charming with everyone. The Chinese call this pro-Russia neutrality. But that's not neutral, because Russia has invaded with naked aggression Ukraine. So you can't be neutral and pro-Russia. You are either pro-Russia and aggression, or you're for the rule of law.
Right. I mean, it's hard to be pro-bully in any sense of the word. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.